Almost 600 schools in England are having to undergo structural checks. We have a look at this more from The Guardian, guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, guys, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here with an article from The Guardian, and the headline is almost 600 schools in England are undergoing urgent restructural checks. Many more are unaware of dangers of collapse posted by crumbling concrete, report finds. This is absolutely shocking. We're talking about schools. We're putting schools, children at risk here. Why is this not being dealt with? 600 of them as well. Why is this happening? Let's find out. Specialists are carrying out urgent checks in almost 600 schools in England, identified as being possible risk of structural collapse because of the crumbling concrete, with many more not aware of the danger of their buildings, a new report finds. The Department of Education has identified 572 schools so far where it believes reinforced autoclaved aerated concrete, that's RAAC, a building material that deteriorates over time and is susceptible for sudden failure, may have been used during construction. The RAAC has been confirmed in 65 schools after 196 surveys, of which 24 required emergency action. According to a report by the National Audit Office, the danger had been considered so great that a number of schools have had to close either fully or partly, while others have required emergency pop-ups owing to fears of collapse. Why was this material allowed to be used in the first place? It just seems like a sticky plaster over a situation where why were we not using stronger materials, much longer lasting materials? Like, that's the first thing that comes to my mind. And the second thing, having to close fully or partly schools, because based on this means that kids have had to be pushed out, either no longer with their friends or having to travel further away to be able to get the education that they need because of this as well. Emergency popping up owing to fears of collapse as well. Like, that's just as much as scary as well. 65 schools under 196 surveys as well. It's extremely frustrating, that is for sure. The total number of school buildings at risk are expected to increase significantly. They're going to increase. This isn't even all of them. This is going to increase, as the Department of Education does not yet have a full picture of the prevalence and conditions of the RAAC in schools. The dangers have, however, been apparent since a sudden roof collapse at a primary school at Gravesend, Kent in 2018. Yeah, I remember that story. Earlier this month, it was reported in Schools Week that the Department of Education had 4 schools in Essex and the North East too close to close after the RAAC was found in their ceilings, with pupils being taught remotely or on alternative sites. It's just being shuffled everywhere just to get them through it. It's just not good enough. The schools were named as Misty Norman Church of England Primary School and Hockley Primary School, both in Essex, and the 2 schools in the North East were run by Bishop Berwick Catholic Education Trust. The RAAC, which is a lightweight form of concrete used in construction of schools and other public buildings between the 1950s and mid-1990s, is seen as a great risk to safety across the ageing school estate in England. The Department DfE has assessed the possibility of a building collapse or failure causing death or injury as a critical and very likely risk since 2021, according to the NAO. It has not yet been able to reduce that risk. More than a third, 38% of the school buildings, 24,000, have passed their estimate designed lifespan, according to the NAO, which reports that 700,000 children are being taught in schools that require major rebuilding of refurbishment programs where poor conditions are directly affecting pupils' attainment and teacher retention. Yeah, where the teachers need to be in a classroom with their children, and if they're being shuffled around or being put into a substitute role, or they keep getting different kids, or they're losing some kids, and all these things, you're making it incredibly uncomfortable for the kids and you're making it difficult for the teachers. this kind of stuff having to move and shuffle around because of the conditions of the schools, whether it's been closed or partly closed, remote working from home, all this stuff. This is all unnecessary strain on teachers and pupils, and this could even go as far as mental health. And we've talked about mental health before. Child's mind is like a sponge, and you need to absorb as much as they can while they're young, because the sponge is not going to be as absorbent as you get older. That's just the reality. So we need to make sure that children are given the best education possible. This is just as Can I directly blame the government? Well, at the end of the day, governments are responsible, aren't they? So yeah, I guess I can blame government for this as well. Stephen Morgan, the Shadow School Minister, says that Labour have repeatedly raised the risks to life that school buildings pose to children and staff have been met with wall silence from the Conservative government. Children won't receive a first-class education in a second-rate buildings. It's time for ministers to come clean and tell parents what they know about the state of school buildings and reassure them that children are being educated in buildings that are safe. Absolutely, 100% agree with this. The DfE is focusing on 14,900 schools built during the period when the use of the RAAC was widespread construction of these. Of these, 42% have confirmed that they have undertaken work to identify the RAAC, but potentially risks are yet to be identified in the remaining schools. The Department of Education is working with the bodies responsible for all schools with the RAAC to confirm the mitigations that are in place to ensure pupils and staff safety. The report says it has allocated £6 million to undertake 600 assessments by December 2023. So there is money there aside. The report does not list the schools known to be affected by the RAAC, but where it is a known problem, head teachers will be aware, and that is likely to have been passed on to parents, especially if a school has closed as a result. They would not be keen to want to tell parents, hey, your kids are in a school that has this material in it that could potentially collapse at any time. Yeah, I don't blame them for not saying that, but at the same time, it's like, you're a parent and you're sending your kids to a school and you don't know about this, and it could potentially be happening to your child. You have every right to be concerned about this. This is an incredibly scary thought, that your children could be learning in a school that is deemed not safe. It's absolutely unacceptable on so many levels. They're also concerned about 13,800 system-built blocking schools, almost all containing asbestos, of which about 3,600 are thought to be susceptible of deterioration. The department has approved plans to assess 200 of these blocks, but has yet to appoint specialists to carry out inspections. Unison Head of Education Mike Short said staff and pupils are sending the school day in buildings that could be on the verge of collapse. The government needs to get a grip on it before someone is injured or worse. Yeah, this is the point. This is not just the adults, the children. Yes, of course, people at risk here. Miranda Wilson, the Liberal Democrat educational spokesman, said parents have a right to know that their child are safe at school, yet this report shows that hundreds of thousands of children are learning in crumbling school buildings. To make matters worse, the government is flying blind without a clue about how many schools pose a danger to our children. Yeah, every single school should be assessed. Every single school, not just a couple. All of them need to be thoroughly checked to be sure. Okay, is this building safe? Okay, let's make sure. Now, put the money in and make sure that these are safe for the teachers, for people who work in the schools, as well as the children. Make sure they are safe, and adequate. Don't fiddle about with it. Just put the money in and make sure that they're safe. Natalia Perker, Chief Executive of the Education Policy Institute, described the findings as alarming. Continued underinvestment in school buildings and under-resorting of urgent maintenance issues has led to the possibility the highest risk the department has ever carried, despite not knowing about the risk of the RAAC since 2018. Still, only a third of schools that are potentially affected have been investigated. Only a third! It is inconceivable that the department is tolerating a risk that could very likely cause the death or serious injury to children and teachers. The DfE said the government was investing in 500 projects for new and refurbish school buildings, and has allocated more than 15 billion since 2015 for keeping schools safe for personnel. We want to know what you're going to do. Don't talk about bloody money. It is the responsibility of those who run our schools, academy trusts, local authorities and volunteer school bodies who speak to their school day to day to maintain the maintenance of their schools and to alert us if there is a concern with a building. We will always provide support on a case-by-case basis if we are alerted to a serious safe issue by those responsible bodies. Ministers have launched a UK government-wide inquiry into the use of crumbling concrete buildings in public buildings ever since, and every Whitehall department has been ordered to assign a civil servant to identify the use of the RAAC across the 158 billion government estate. It doesn't change the fact that it just doesn't change the fact, guys, that they're still at risk. They're still at risk. They haven't checked every single school. I don't understand this. This like, whether you like, here's my thing, right? Whether you are, just take away the political aspect here. Take away the political aspect, okay? We're talking about people's lives here. We're talking about children's lives here. We're talking about their education being affected. Their lives at risk here, potential risk, because of these buildings. Where is the, like, there is just, it's just outright anger here from me. I mean, I just don't understand why this is not a more serious issue from the government point of view. You talk about money. Like, can we just make sure that these children are safe first and foremost? Then secondly, let's make sure that they are getting the best education possible. Now parents are going to be, parents read this, and they're going to be rightly concerned and worried about their well-being of their children, taking them to a school, then having their education in potential buildings that could be deemed dangerous because of the structure, because of this RAAC material. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Like, share and subscribe. And I'll catch you guys very, very soon.